After the exposure is complete, we're now ready to wash the wafer with the liquid developer that we talked about earlier. So the developer will wash away only the areas of the photoresist that had a chemical reaction from the blue light. So basically all the transparent areas on the mask pattern will be washed away when we're done with this step. And all the opaque or dark areas of the mask, those patterns will be left on the wafer as chunks of photoresist because those areas didn't get exposed to the blue light because the light was blocked by the dark spots on the mask. So those spots didn't have reactions, and so they won't react with the developer. Now we first need to get everything cleaned up and ready to use for the developer. So we make sure to rinse out the plastic tub we're going to use so that it doesn't have any other chemicals in it that might damage the pattern on our wafer. We also want to get some paper towels ready so that we can quickly dry off the wafer after we're done with development. Once we're ready to develop, we drop the wafer into the developer and we switch the tub back and forth really quickly so that the developer and the photoresist can mix evenly and uniformly. You can see that the red photoresist is washing off of the wafer. There's a ton of it coming off, and it only takes about 20 to 30 seconds to develop the photoresist for this step. So when it's finished, we quickly grab the wafer and rinse it with clean water and then dry it off. Now before we put everything away, we want to make sure that the pattern actually looks good, so we take the developed wafer over to the microscope to have a look. You can see that some of the patterns that we just transferred onto the wafer are showing up in the microscope, and they actually look pretty good. Everything looks sharp and crisp, so we're ready to clean up and move on to the next step now that we've used photolithography to pattern these chunks of photoresist where we want our wires to be. So now that we have a nice sharp pattern for the wires we want to put on our wafer, we're ready for the final step. Remember that our wafer looks like a sandwich from the side. The very bottom layer is the bare silicon wafer, and on top of that is the glass layer that we grew in the glowing red hot furnace. And on top of the glass layer is the metal layer that we deposited in the sputterer. Now we just finished covering certain areas of the top metal layer with photoresist patterns, so now there are some areas of the metal layer that are exposed to the air or to the acid that we're going to put it in, and some metal areas that are covered with photoresist. So when we put the wafer into a corrosive acid, the acid can eat away at the exposed metal areas, but it won't touch the areas that are covered or protected by the photoresist. So when we're done with the acid, we'll be left with long lines of metal that were protected by the photoresist, and these will be the lines of metal. These will be the wires that we're going to use to make our circuit. So this is how we're going to finish up making the wires that we need for our circuit. So Patrick's helping me again since I can't wear the GoPro camera while also wearing all the acid safety protective gear that you see Patrick wearing. So he's going to do this step for us, and I'm going to film from the side. So this etching step can take a while, so I've sped up the video quite a bit. You can see the wires though starting to appear on the wafer as the exposed metal areas get eaten away by the acid, but the protected areas don't get touched. So you can see it happening right before your eyes. And then once the acid etching is complete, we rinse off the wafer and we clean it with water and dry it off, just like we did after the developer. Now, after checking that the metal lines look good under the microscope, we will clean off the remaining photoresist, and then we'll continue on with several more steps that we're not going to cover in these videos that will connect and protect our circuits so that we can use them outside of the clean room, so that we can take the chip outside of the clean room and use it, out in the real world without it getting damaged or protected. So thanks for watching.